大家好. This is Jonathan Higgins with LearnChineseCafe.com, and in this video tutorial I am going to show you how to memorize Chinese characters and vocabulary so that you never forget them. Be sure to visit our website, like our Facebook page, and visit our YouTube channel. Let's get started. Okay, I should probably start off by saying that if you want to learn how to read Chinese, it's going to take a certain level of commitment, and it's going to take a daily prolonged commitment. This isn't something you can do part-time. Chinese children, when they're learning how to read and write Chinese in schools, it certainly isn't something that they do here and there. It's a daily exercise, and that's for children. I'm assuming many watching this video are young adults or older adults, and so you need to be ready to put in some effort. Don't think that this is going to be, how to read Chinese fluently in 10 hours. That's not going to happen. Before we start, I want to lay out some principles and sort of briefly go over the process. So principle number one, this is a daily commitment. So as soon as you start the process that I'm about to show you, don't expect that you're going to take a day off. Maybe a day off, maybe like a Sunday or something, but you want to get it in your head that this is a commitment, almost like a marriage, which brings us to our second principle. I like to tell my students that once you memorize a new character, so what do I mean? What do I mean by memorize? You memorize it the night before, you take a test in class the next day, and you are able to recognize that character, pronounce it correctly, and you know its meaning. Okay, so you were able to memorize that character. Well, you're gonna forget that character tomorrow, and if not tomorrow, the next day. So once you put in all that effort to memorize a character, you need to now get it into your long-term permanent memory so it doesn't go away. Now, maybe I exaggerate a little bit, but I say if you're going to put in the effort today to memorize a character, then you're married to that character in the form of a flashcard for at least 30 days, which means you're carrying around that character on a flashcard with you for 30 days, and you're reviewing it daily, maybe multiple times daily, maybe even writing it multiple times daily for at least 30 days. So keep that in mind. It takes that long to imprint these on your mind so that you don't forget them. All right. Next principle, you want to start slow. Well, think about it. If you are going to learn 20 characters a day, then in 5 days you already have 100 characters, 100 flashcards, and you're going to review those 100 flashcards daily. If you've used flashcards before, you know how long it takes to review a deck of 100 cards. It takes a long time, and you're going to get frustrated and want to give up. And if you're trying to learn new characters every day, then after 10 days you'd have 200 cards, and 20 days you'd have 400 cards, and that's just too large of a flashcard deck to manage. So you want to start slow. Finally, daily reading. This is the hard part because daily reading is hard to come by that's leveled. There are some graded readers out there. Textbooks can be used, but you need fresh content. Incidentally, I'm currently developing an HSK course that someone who's never studied Chinese before can start learning today and be able to ace the HSK level 1 in 60 days. And in this course, there's daily reading of fresh material every day so that you're using the characters that you're learning. You're not just memorizing vocabulary on a card. You're actually reading and using it. But daily reading is important. Get it however you can. The process. All right, so very brief overview. I'm going to go into all of this in detail. 5 new characters a day, no more than that, because very quickly you're going to build up. If you're reviewing each of these characters for 30 days, and you do any more than 5 new cards a day, pretty soon you're going to have an unmanageable deck that's going to be too big, overwhelming, frustrating, and you're going to give up. And the key is to stick with the process and not give up. Okay, like I said, you're going to be reviewing all new characters for at least 30 days. When I say characters, I could mean vocabulary as well. Um, and what you would do is spend more time on characters that are giving you trouble, less on ones that you master, but still reviewing daily. And then, does absence make the heart grow fonder? If not, then spend more time together. Basically, what this means, I'll get into it in more detail, is that after 30 days, um, if there are cards, well, I'll get into it later, but basically it means after 30 days of reviewing a card every day, if you still find that a few days later, a couple weeks later, you forget that card, you need to spend more time with it. So let's move forward. Okay, I highly recommend that when learning new characters and vocabulary that you use flashcards. You have to use flashcards, and they should be handheld flashcards. I do not recommend using computer-based flashcards, internet-based or software that you can put on your computer or smartphone. And the reason why I don't recommend this is because you need to have total control of your deck. And if you want to isolate a few characters to spend more time on and isolate others to spend less time on, to use your time wisely, then you need to have physical handheld flashcards. Usually most computer-based flashcard programs, if you want to work with your deck, you have to work with the whole deck. So once you start it, you got to go through the whole deck, and you don't know what card it's going to give you, and it may not be a card you want to work with, and it can end up being a huge waste of time if you don't have control over the deck. And you'll see as I get into the process why having handheld flashcards is important. Incidentally, after you've memorized a card, after a card is supposedly in your long-term memory, after you've been working with it for 30 days or more, then that card could go into a computer-based flashcard program or a program on your smartphone, where you could use it to review decks of cards that you've learned, periodically, so that you don't forget them. Okay, your flashcards and how you make them is important. So let's take a look here. I use 3x5 flashcards or index cards cut in half. Cheaper that way, and it's kind of clunky to carry around 3x5 index cards. These smaller ones are better. I use one of those handheld paper cutters with the board, and you lower down the blade. Those have rulers on it. You can measure them so that the cards come out the same size. If they are different sizes, then they feel awkward in your hand, so you want them to be the same size. I've got one right here that I can show you. There's one with the pinyin and the English on the other side. What I do is I print out all characters that I'm making flashcards for. The reason why is because my handwriting stinks, and even if you have good handwriting, the way you draw a character, well, let's just put it this way. I've memorized characters before that I've written with my hand, and then when I see those same characters in a book, I don't recognize them. And I've gone through what character is that? And then I look it up in a dictionary, and it's like, hey, wait a minute, I've been studying this for the past 3 weeks with flashcards. Why don't I know it? I know it in my flashcard deck, but I don't recognize it in the book. So basically, since the characters that you're going to need to be recognizing are characters on websites, textbooks, books, or whatever, HSK materials, and so on, those are going to be typed characters on a computer or in a book. So it's best to use those rather than your own handwriting. What I do is I usually type all the characters into a document. I increase the font size. I believe this font size is 36 or 48. 48 maybe for single characters, 36 for 2 or 3 word vocabulary words. The characters alone on one side, I tape it to the card, as you can see there. And then pinyin and English is on the other side. You can see how bad my handwriting is. The reason why you want your cards this way with Chinese on one side, Pinyin and English on the other is because the goal here is to the goal here is for reading. We're trying to be able to recognize Chinese characters. So you need the character by itself on one side with no English or Pinyin to give you a clue. On the opposite side, you have the Pinyin and English. Okay, here's a brief overview of how to get started on day one, and then I'll go into more detail. So in day one, you're going to memorize 5 new characters or vocabulary words. You're going to use the learn, review, learn technique, which I'll get into. And on the first day after you've memorized your 5 new flashcards, you want to plan on revisiting them at least 4 to 5 more times throughout the day. And the more you can space it, the better, which means if you go to bed at 10, don't learn 5 new cards at 8 and then review them 4 to 5 times between 9 and 10. That's not going to be as effective as learning the 5 new cards, say in the morning, and then reviewing them once every 2 hours throughout the day. Okay, the learning process, the learn, review, learn technique here, you're doing 2 things. So step 1, what you're trying to do is to learn how to write the character from memory. Now, keep in mind that the goal isn't to learn how to be a writer. Don't expect that using this technique that now you're going to be able to handwrite letters. Okay, that's probably not going to happen. Writing by hand is extremely complicated, very difficult. Maybe you can cram so that you can write for a test the next day with using your hand. But otherwise, it's very difficult. And in fact, my wife, who is Chinese, often forgets how to write characters, and younger Chinese these days are texting, they're typing on a computer, they're dealing with their language more in a virtual world than they are in a pen and paper world. And you'll find that Chinese students, you'll be sitting in a group of Chinese students, high school students, and you'll hear them say, "Hey, how do you write that character again? I forget how to write it. What stroke is that?" So they're even having troubles remembering some characters. So don't expect that you're going to learn how to be able to handwrite characters indefinitely, but the writing process, writing them out either with a pen on paper or tracing them out with your finger on the table, helps you in the recognition process. Okay, it helps you focus. It does something's happening in your brain, and it helps you focus on every part of the character and therefore memorize it better. So the writing will lead to you being able to more easily recognize characters. Okay, so that's part 1. Part 2 is recognizing the meaning and pronunciation, which means when you look at a character, for example, when you look at this character here, that you're able to immediately recognize its meaning and how to pronounce it. So when you're learning, each day when you're learning your 5 new flashcards, characters, you want to be sure to have audio clips of those characters and directions on how to write that character using the proper stroke order. My HSK course will have all of that as it's teaching you the characters you need to ace the HSK test. All right, so let's start. So what you would do is you would have your 5 flashcards all ready to go. You want to have them all made out before you start. And you're going to take the first card and note what its English meaning is. So in this case, we have ni, which means you, as in I, you, me, he, she, they, right? You. Okay, so you're going to take this card and you're going to realize, okay, this is you, and maybe you want to start creating a picture in your head of maybe someone's in front of you and you're pointing to them saying you. So you want to try kinetically, visually, with your imagination, you want to start putting your whole being into what this character means. Okay, so you realize, okay, this means you. And then what you want to do is you want to listen to the audio clip that you have. So ideally you would have an audio clip that you could very easily manipulate, which means you could press a button and it would say ni, and then right away you could press it again, ni, so that whenever you want it or need it, you can press that button and it's going to play this character for you, ni. And what you want to do is listen to it and repeat it about 20 times. And as you're listening to it and repeating it, you're thinking about its meaning. All right, so ni, I'm kind of focusing on the character, seeing what it looks like. Ni, okay, it means you. Maybe I have an image in my mind that I'm pointing to someone. Ni, you. And you can also note that the radical, if you're into looking up the radicals, or you have a reference for radicals, you'll know that this is the 单人旁, and it's a person. And so most characters that have to do with people, or many characters that have this 单人旁 on it, have to do with people. And of course, you is a pronoun that refers to a person, so that can help you remember it. So you're listening, repeating, ni, and thinking about what it means. As you're listening and repeating, you're also adjusting your pronunciation. You're noticing that ni in pinyin actually sounds like Knee, not n. So then you make a mental note, oh, ni sounds like ni, not n, or nai, right? Ni. Okay, and so that's how you should start out. Okay, so now you've heard the character several times, you've repeated it several times, you know the meaning. Now you're ready to start memorizing it. To do that, we need to write it. So you should have the stroke order instructions, whether it's from a textbook or online. There are character animation services online. If you take my HSK course, those instructions for the stroke order for each character will be right there along with the audio, so you don't have to go hunting around for it. So now you're gonna memorize how to write the character. I recommend that in the beginning, when you're first learning a character, that you write it with a pen or a pencil on a piece of paper. But after that, during the review process, you're going to want to write it with the tip of your finger on the table. And the reason why is because writing with a pen and paper is very time consuming. And you can do that if you want, but if you insist on, whenever I recommend that you write in this tutorial here, if you insist on doing it with a pen and paper or pencil and paper, you can, but at some point it's going to get time consuming. And if you ever feel overwhelmed, frustrated, and you can't keep up day after day after day because you're spending too much time on this, then that may be the time to ditch the handwriting with a pen and use the tip of your finger on the table. At least in the beginning, you can use a pencil and a piece of paper. So what you want to do is you want to take your character and look at the stroke order, and then you want to start tracing it or writing it with a pen on a piece of paper. Now what you want to do is you want to keep writing the character over and over again until you feel that it's in your head and you don't need to look at the stroke order guide to be able to write it. You're now able to write it from beginning to end using the proper stroke order without looking away at any kind of instructions. Okay. Now once you get to that point, flip the card over and then keep tracing the character or writing it on a piece of paper. The other disadvantage of writing it on a piece of paper is once you write it, then you have it right there and your eye will tend to want to look at it when you're writing the next time. If you're tracing with your finger on the table, there's nothing left behind for you to cheat with. Okay, so what you want to do is keep writing that character, and once you know you can write it from beginning to end in the correct way without looking at any help, once you can do that, say 3 to 5 times in a row, and you feel comfortable, then set that character aside. Set that flashcard aside. You may want to look at the character one more time, repeat it out loud one more time, ni. Put an image in your head of the meaning, maybe you're pointing at somebody, and then set it aside. Okay, now you want to pick up the second card and learn it in the same manner. So you're going to spend some time with the audio clip, listening, repeating, and then look at stroke order, draw it a few times with a pen on paper, and then start using your finger instead to trace it to save time. And then once you feel like you can write that character fluently from beginning to end, completely from memory, flip the card over, see if you can still write it from memory. Write it several times to sort of lay it down in your head how it's written. You know, make it automatic and natural. Okay. Then what you're going to do once you've finished with the second card, this is the learn, review, learn technique. You're going to take the second card, place it on the bottom of the first card that you learned, and then you're going to review writing the first card. So without looking at the character or vocabulary word on the first card, looking at the English and pinyin side, you're going to try and rewrite it. Did you forget how to rewrite it? Relearn how to write it. Okay? When you forget how to write, don't panic. You're going to forget. You should be forgetting. If you don't forget, you're like a superhuman, and you'll be fluent in Chinese in a year. Unfortunately, most of us are not like that. So pick up the first card. If you can rewrite it, great. If you can't rewrite it, relearn how to write it. When you're done with the first card, review the second card you just learned. Looking at the English and pinyin, do you remember how to write the character? Right? If you do, great, you can move on. If not, then relearn how to write it and then start over. So basically you cannot proceed to learning the third card until you can write the first two cards from memory in a row without making any mistakes. You got to be test ready. Are you ready to now go into a classroom and take a test and write those characters successfully, both of them? All right. So you want to keep reviewing both of those characters until you can review the first one and move on and review the second one without making any mistakes. Okay. Then you can proceed to the third card. Memorize the third card, same manner, same fashion. When you're done, put it on the bottom of cards 1 and 2 and review writing all 3 cards. If you make any mistakes, relearn how to write those cards, shuffle them up, and then relearn them. Remember that you cannot move on to card 4 until you can write all 3 of these cards from memory in a row from card 1 all the way to card 3 without making any mistakes. You have to be test ready. Continue in this way until you have memorized all 5 cards. All right, take maybe a 1 or 2 minute break. Go check your Facebook page or something. Go and like my Facebook page, facebook.com/Learn Chinese Cafe, and then come right back. And then take the 5 cards that you just learned, shuffle them up, and see if you can still remember how to write them all. Okay, basically you're not done until you can write the 5 characters from memory in a row from card 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 in a row without making any error or mistake. All right, get yourself test ready. You're going to have a test tomorrow. Imagine that you're going to have a test tomorrow and you need to write these 5 characters from memory. So that's what you're going for. It's almost like you're cramming for a test tomorrow. And in a way you are. So once you can write all these 5 cards from memory and you feel pretty comfortable, you'll know that which cards you feel confident with and which ones are giving you trouble. They're stubborn. For some reason your mind won't remember them. You don't want to give up this portion of the process until you can do all those cards. Okay. And then once you can, unfortunately, you're still not done. All right, we're almost there. What you want to do is now take those cards, shuffle them again. And now what you want to do is be looking at the side with the character on it. And what you're going to do with these 5 cards now is looking at the character, you're going to recall the meaning and the pronunciation. So you want to look at the character and you want to be able to say, oh yeah, this is ni. and it means you. And you want to do that with each of these cards. Now, believe it or not, you can write these cards from memory because you just spent, a good half hour doing that. Maybe less, maybe more. Um, you'll be surprised that when you start looking at these characters that you just studied how to write, you'll be surprised how many of them you forget the meaning, or you mix up the meaning with the meaning of another card, or you forget the tones, or something like that, and you get it all messed up. So what you want to do is now work with the deck until you can get through all 5 cards, looking at the characters and recalling the pinyin and English meaning. Okay, and if you need to shuffle them up and then retry, do that. Shuffle, retry, shuffle, retry. Keep drilling. Basically, at the end of the process, you want to be able to go through all 5 cards, and you can write them from memory, and then go through all 5 cards, and you can recognize um, the meaning of the character when you look at it, and the pinyin, how to pronounce it in the proper tones. And after this process, you are nearly done. You're only nearly done because now you want to review this deck 4 to 5 times that same day. So what that means is you don't want to be learning cards at night. If nighttime is the only time you have to learn cards, then you may want to learn at night, and then all the next day you're doing the 4 to 5 times review of the cards. So tonight you learn the cards, and then tomorrow morning you carry those cards around with you and review them 4 to 5 times during the day. And then at night you learn a new set of 5. Otherwise, it's better to learn them in the morning, and then 4 or 5 times throughout the day you review. And this review session should be only be 5 minutes. You don't want to be take so much time that you end up getting frustrated and you don't look forward to reviewing. You want to keep the process as quick and as short as possible. So if you learn these in the morning at 8 o'clock, then at 10 o'clock you have 5 minutes, whip out your cards, try and write them all from memory. If you make any mistakes, it's the same deal. Whatever mistake you make, you need to correct the mistake with that card, re-practice it, shuffle them up, and then review all 5 cards again. All right? You can't quit. You can't get card 1 right, get card 2 right, get card 3 wrong, get card 4 right, and 5 card right, and then just relearn card 3 that you got wrong, and then you're done. No. After you relearn card 3, you got to shuffle it back in the mix and then review all 5 cards again. The system is that you're not done with your session until you can get through all the cards straight through without making any mistakes. That's the key. And then it's probably a good idea also to have one of those times you review them is right before bed. And then finally, you are done with your 5 cards for that day. Okay, day 2 is very similar. But the first thing you're going to do on day 2 is you're going to review the cards from day 1. And basically, if you haven't guessed it already, you don't want to go on to learning 5 new cards until you have reviewed the 5 cards from yesterday. You've found any cards that you forgot how to write or you forgot the meaning. You re-practice those cards, and you guessed it, you can't learn any new cards today on day 2 until you can get through your little deck of 5 cards from card 1 to card 5 without making any mistakes. First with writing them, and then flipping them over and recalling the English meaning and the pronunciation and tones and whatnot. Okay, you're gonna forget cards. All right, you will have spent a half hour on day 1 trying to memorize these things and then reviewing them 4 to 5 times throughout the day. And day 2 will come in the morning, and you'll get the cards out, and there'll be ones that you forget. All right, what is very important to realize is that forgetting is normal. All right, it's like herding cats. All right, you're trying to get these characters or cats into your head. You're trying to control them, and the thing is they don't want to stay in your head. They want to be forgotten, and they stubbornly want to be forgotten. And so you have to expect that you are going to forget them. You are. Just accept it. You're going to forget what you spent an hour learning the day before. All right? Don't worry about it. That's just the way it works. You relearn any of the cards you forgot, you shuffle them up, and then once you can get through all 5 cards, writing them from memory, and then shuffling them, flipping them over, and recognizing their English meaning, looking at the characters and remembering the pinyin and tones and whatnot, then you can go on to learning your new cards. Okay, so you've successfully reviewed the characters from the day before. Now you're going to learn 5 new cards or characters in the same fashion. So you're looking at, a half hour, 45 minutes, maybe not that long, mastering 5 new characters, both how to write them and then how to be able to look at the characters and recall the English meaning, pinyin, and tones. Okay, at this point, you want to now combine the 5 cards from day 1 with the card you just learned for day 2. Mix them together, shuffle them up, and see if you can get through them with no problem. First, from 1 to 10, writing them, and then shuffling, flipping them over, and looking at the characters and recalling English meaning and the pinyin and tones. And now what you want to do is, at this point, don't be satisfied if you get them all right, but you struggled. Okay? You can't really say that you've mastered anything if you can get through the 10 cards writing them with your finger, but it takes you a whole minute to do it while you're sitting there struggling trying to recall. Or if you're staring at a character for 10 seconds and then finally you remember the meaning and the pinyin and the tones and whatnot. No. Basically, if it's 10 cards, you want to be able to get through. If you're looking at the characters trying to recall the English meaning and the pinyin and tones, you should be able to do it in 10 seconds, 1 second per card. 你我是 and so on. 也国家 and so on. You just want to be able to flip through them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If you're going through and trying to write them with your fingers, it doesn't take long to write a character. And if, like, I can start now, and I just wrote 我. All right, I can start now, and I just wrote 是. 我是美国人. Okay, you can write them very quick. You should be writing them quick. They should be flying off your finger, with rapidity. So as you're working through these 10 cards, don't be satisfied until you own those 10 cards. I mean, you own them. You're whipping right through them. It takes you less than 10 seconds to get through recognizing the English meaning and the characters. And the pinyin and tones, and then maybe writing them, it takes you 15 or 20 seconds max. All right. You shouldn't be struggling about, gee, what stroke do I write next? Oh, yeah, that's right. No, you want to fly through it. Stroke 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, done. Stroke 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, done. Okay. You want to build and keep working with the deck, these 10 cards on day 2 until your reaction time is, immediate. All right. And then once you get to that point, now you can stop. And then 4 to 5 more times throughout the day. Again, work with those 10 cards. If you forgot any of them, relearn them. Remember, don't finish that session until you can get through all of them correctly. Both sides, both for writing and for recognizing the characters. And if you think your reaction time and the time it takes you to get through the deck is a little too slow, work on speeding it up. All right. If there's a couple characters that are very stubborn, then set 8 of them aside. No need to waste your time with those 8 that you feel pretty good with. Take the 2 that you're struggling with and work with just those 2 for a few minutes and try and increase your reaction time and whatnot. And then once you feel like you've made some progress with the ones that are being stubborn, mix them back in with the other 8 and then try all 10 again. Okay. The key is you don't really want to finish a session until you can get through all 10 cards quickly and fluently. Okay, no surprise, day 3 is very similar. You're going to review the 10 cards from day 1 and day 2, and you know how to do that. You're not going to go on to learning 5 new cards until you have until you can get through those 10 cards without any difficulty, flipping the deck over and doing the recognition as well. And once you're ready, then learn 5 more using the same process. All right, so you basically get the gist of this. So from day 4 on to day 10, you're just going to continue it in this fashion. And when day 10 gets here, you're now going to have a deck of 50 cards in it. That's a lot. And this is going to get a little more cumbersome. You'll see very quick after 10 days when you have to review a whole deck of 50 cards. If ideally by day 10, at the end of day 10, so you've learned the cards for day 10, so now you have a total of 50 cards, and now you're going to review the deck of 50 cards 4 to 5 times throughout the day. So by the evening on day 10, by that time you should have mastered pretty well the 5 new cards from day 10. Those 50 cards, it should take you a minute max to go through recognizing them. So if you hold up the deck of 50 cards and you're looking at the Chinese characters, you should be able to fly through 你好，我们叫名字美国中国. I mean, you should just be flying through those cards without any hesitation, looking at them and repeating them. Ideally, not spending much more than a second per card. So 50 may be a lot of cards, but if you have been following the process that I just laid out from day 1 until day 10, then you should be able to fly through these cards with this kind of rapidness. Writing them may take longer. For me, it doesn't take that much longer because, I can write like what? I can write it in a second. My fingers just know what to do without thinking about it. And you will be able to do that too. You'll be able to write what, the word for I, in less than a second. I can do it while I'm talking to you in less than a second. And you can too. It's like driving a stick shift. You can't do it in the beginning. The car is stalling and you can't do anything else. All you can do is focus on trying to shift at the right time. But then, a month later, you've got your cell phone in one hand. You shouldn't, but you have your cell phone in one hand, a cheeseburger in the other hand, and you're steering with your knee and shifting with your elbow. All right? It's because the process of driving a standard shift vehicle has become automatic for you. In writing these characters, that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to get it to be automatic. Okay? So if you follow the process correctly, that's where you should be. We'll do something a little different after day 10. Let's take a look. Okay, from day 10 to day 30, you're still going to be reviewing the cards every day. Remember, the cards that you learned on day 1, you should be reviewing them every day, several times a day, up until day 30. Okay, but the thing is that's a lot of cards, and by day 30, it's 150 cards that you have. So what you can do is cards that are less than 10 days old, you still want to be reviewing those 4 to 5 times a day. The cards that are more than 10 days old, these are the ones that you should have pretty well mastered by now. Maybe you can try reviewing those twice a day. If you can review all the cards, all 50, all 100, all 150, if you can review them all 4 to 5 times a day, more power to you. But if you go to bed one night and you haven't reviewed your cards yet today, or you were supposed to review them 4 to 5 times today, but you only reviewed them 2 times, okay, the system is becoming unmanageable for you, and this should be a warning sign for you. It's only going to get worse. Pretty soon you'll have whole days going by where you skip out and don't do anything, okay, and now the whole system breaks down. Okay, so what you want to do is if the review process becomes too cumbersome, you can review older cars maybe only twice a day and the newer cars 4 to 5 times a day. Or you could break it up. Maybe you have 10 review sessions in one day and you review 25 cards during this hour and 25 cards the next hour, and then the first 25 the third hour, and then the second 25 the next hour. So whatever it is, whatever system works for you to make the review process of a deck of 100 cards or more, any way that you can make that a little less daunting is fine, as long as all cards are still getting reviewed every day. Another thing you can do is that if there are stubborn cards, you may find that there are characters or vocabulary words that are really stubborn, and for some reason your mind is not willing to um, remember them. Uh, you also know which cards are really easy and the ones that you've mastered pretty well. Okay, review those only once a day. And then the really stubborn ones, review those 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times a day. All right. Um, the goal, remember, at the end of each day is that each card only takes about a second to write or a second to review meaning and pronunciation. You want the response time to be immediate. If some cards need less time and other cards need more time, make sure to set it up that way so that you're spending your valuable limited time most efficiently. Another thing you can start doing at this point is start keeping a written journal. So start journaling. If you've learned characters that, to talk about what's your name or how old are you or where are you from, where do you live, so on and so forth, how many people are in your family. Start keeping a journal where you're writing um, about your actual life or a friend's life or a fictional character's life or a movie character's life or something like that. Luke is 30 years old. You know, his mother is dead, or well, maybe you wouldn't know the word dead, but you get what I'm meaning. And also, daily reading is key. In my HSK course, there will be daily reading as fresh as can be, so that every day you have something different. When I say different, I mean every day you're going to be seeing what's your name, how old are you, where are you from, but it's going to be, a different conversation with everything appearing in different order. So that will be useful for those who are interested in doing that course. But anyhow, the key here is that you want to start your experience with characters can't just be flashcards. You have to be writing something, so keeping a journal, or reading something that is level appropriate. Okay, from day 30 to 90, basically what you want to be doing is culling the deck a little bit. So on day 31, basically the cards that you've learned on day 1, you've been reviewing those now for 30 days, at least once a day, if not 4 or 5 times a day. So those cards you should have mastered. And then what you want to do is get like little flashcard boxes or shoe boxes, or I don't know, any kind of organization system that you can have. And you want to take those 5 cards from day 1 and drop them in a box that's called Monday. And then on day 32, take the cards from day 2 and put them in a box called Tuesday. And basically each day you're taking out the cards from your daily review deck. You're taking out the ones that are 30 days old and putting them in a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday deck. And that way, every Monday you review the Monday deck, and every Tuesday you review your Tuesday deck. So you see the cards from day 6 will go into Monday, and the cards from day 11 will go into Monday. So now what happens after day 31 is that not only are you reviewing your daily deck, the one that you look at every day, including the new cards that you learn, but you're also going to take a look at the deck for that day of the week. So these cards you're reviewing once a week, once every Monday. These cards you're reviewing once every Tuesday. And basically, you just spent 30 days trying to remember these cards. You don't want to forget them. You don't want all that work to go to waste. So you just want a system to make sure that you're looking at these cards a little bit more so that you don't forget them. If once these decks start building up, if you are reviewing a once a week deck like this Tuesday deck, and there's a card you get wrong, all right, don't panic. Don't be like, oh, I practiced this for 30 days and why don't I know it yet? All right. It's you're learning a lot of characters. You're gonna forget them. All right. If you forget a card, what you want to do is take it out of the Tuesday deck and you want to put it back into the daily deck, and you want to keep it in there for another week. So now you're going to review it every day for another week. All right. And then when the week is up, you can put it back into the Tuesday box. Okay, so any card that you review once a week, once you don't want, if you forget it at all, it's got to go back and you're going to review it again every day for a week. All right, so somehow that card slipped out of your memory. Remember herding cats. You're trying to herd cats here. These Chinese characters are like cats and they don't want to be remembered. It's nothing wrong with you at all. It's just the nature of the beast. And so don't fret when you forget a character that you've been studying every day for 30 days. Um, just don't worry about it. All right, day 90 and on in this process, pretty soon those once a week decks are going to get too big. And so then what you may want to do is start culling those decks into a deck that's every 2 weeks. Maybe you have a deck that gets checked on the 1st and 15th of every month. All right, this is very systematic and takes a lot of organization. So you may want a box that says 1st and then another box that says 15th. And so then you start culling your weekly decks into a once a month deck. Or at this point, this may be when you want to start transferring these vocabularies to a computer-based program. A good one to use would be Anki, A-N-K-I, all right, spaced repetition. You may want to try that or any other flashcard program that you can put on your smartphone. And then those you can review periodically. What you need to remember to do is that if you forget a character, it's got to go back into your daily practice for another week to get it back into your head. But you know, the other way to do it is just to have two boxes. One is called the 1st, the other is called the 15th, and you review those on the 1st and the 15th. If you ever forget any character in this box, it has to go back into the daily pile that you review every day, and then it's got to work its way up through the once a week pile for a couple weeks, and then it can get back up into the once every 2 weeks. Cards that make it a month or two in the once every 2 weeks can go to the once a month. And then I think that cards in the once a month pile, if you've made it a month without looking at a card and then you look at it the next month and you remember it, I think you're pretty much done with that card. You know that card. You probably won't forget it ever. It's like a card is working at an organization and it's trying to get promoted, and it can get promoted and demoted. And so you're going to have cards in your system, cards that are going up and cards that are falling back down to the once review every day pile. But any card that makes it into this once a month pile and then 1 month later, without reviewing it for a whole month, without reviewing it, you looked at it again a month later and you still know it, man, that card belongs to you. You now know it. And you likely won't need to review it again. You're going to see it while you're reading. You're going to see it while you're keeping your journal. But as far as a flashcard that you need to visit, your relationship with that card is now over and you can retire it. Okay, some final thoughts on this system. First of all, you want to read daily. That will be one of the good things about my HSK course that is forthcoming, because it will have material in there that you can read every day. Otherwise, you'll need to rely on some textbooks or websites that provide similar services. I have some suggestions on my website, learnchinesecafe.com, that you can go and read about good services that provide leveled reading. So you do want to try and be reading every day. Continue handwriting stubborn characters. If there are characters there'll be ones that for some reason they just don't want to be learned. Those characters you need to sort of take out, the big guns, and, work really hard with it. Maybe write it with a pen on paper 100 times or 50 times, or just maybe that one card you're going to review it 20 times a day or something, or write 20 sentences with it, or what have you. So those stubborn cards you want to spend more time with. Take it slow. Remember, 5 characters a day, and very quickly in 20 days you have 100 cards that you have to review on a daily basis. And for most people, you're supposed to be reviewing those cards in this system 4 to 5 times a day. For a lot of people, that's hard to do, and you're going to want to quit and give up. And then the whole system breaks down. And then a few more months will go by, and then you'll be like, oh man, I really need to learn how to read Chinese, and let's try this again. And then you try to start the system up again, and time gets wasted and whatnot. You want to take it slow. Don't start with any more than 5 a day. It's highly unlikely that you'll be able to manage much more than that. Keep a journal. Whatever you learn, keep a journal. And then if you get tired of writing the same thing every day, then try writing about someone else. Maybe a character on one of your favorite TV shows, all right? If you're tired of, you know, 你家有几口人？我家有4口人，我有一个哥哥，一个妹妹等等等等等等。If if if it gets boring, if you're writing about your own family day after day after day, pick someone else. Pick like Luke from Star Wars. All right, imagine you're Luke, and then okay, I have a mom, but she died. I have a dad, but he's bad person. I have a sister. Her name is Leia. This year she is 35 years old or whatever. Or any fictional family or fictional character. Start writing about that in Chinese characters. Uh, Anything so that writing a journal becomes interesting to you and that you can do it on a daily basis. The other thing is that when you're writing a journal, you want to make sure that you don't overdo certain topics at the expense of other topics. Like if you're writing every day about family members, but let's say you also did a unit on, the university dormitory, and, here is a bed, there's a desk, it's very noisy here, whatever it is. You want to make sure that you have some kind of list in the beginning of your journal. And so like a topic list, so that like, oh, today, so you have a topic list that you rotate through. Oh, so today I'm going to write about family. Today I'm going to write about university life. Okay, today I'm going to write about, going to the store. And then remember to use, storylines from movies or fictional characters or books that you've read to sort of make it interesting and mix up your writing so that you're not writing about yourself all the time. You have some fresh content to write about. But if you can keep a journal daily, that would be a huge help. I know this one's hard for a lot of people, and most people won't be able to do it. All right, finally, in this process, you're doing a lot of writing. Every day when you review your flashcards, this system requires you to trace it with your hand, trace the stroke order of writing the character with your hand every day for 30 days. You're going to be writing each card 30 days, 4 or 5 times a day, so like 150 times. You will have written that character 150 times by day 30. So there's a lot of writing going on here. But don't be frustrated when you're at your Chinese friend's dormitory and they're not there and you want to leave a little note on their door. They have a little whiteboard on their door that you can leave a note on, and then all of a sudden you can't remember how to write, meet me at the library at 5 o'clock. All of a sudden you can't remember how to write those characters. Don't panic. Don't become dejected. Don't think that you've wasted all your time. That's not true. Writing is hard. Maybe you can write it and that's great, but if you can't, don't be upset, because the writing that you're doing here is not necessarily so that you can become a writer. The writing helps in the recognition and learning process. It's helping you become fluent in reading. The end game of all the writing of the characters is to help you learn to recognize them. If you actually learn how to be a fluent writer and you can pick up a pen and write a whole journal entry in Chinese without any problem, consider that a bonus. But it certainly isn't the goal of this process. All right? The goal of this process that I've just brought you through is how to read Chinese fluently. I hope you have found this useful. Thank you for your time. I know I've kept you here for a long time. I really appreciate you being here with me for so long. Please like my Facebook page, facebook.com/Learn Chinese Cafe. Please like my YouTube page. It's Learn Chinese Cafe. And please come and visit my website. Sign up for my newsletter. LearnChineseCafe.com, and leave comments about this on Facebook or on my website. Please leave comments about this process and let me know what you like about it, what you don't like about it, or what you have found successful in your learning process. Thank you very much. 再见。